Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take some time to officially welcome you to the Women Culture and Community event presented by Stream Global Innovations. We are so excited to have you here today. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Niamani Knight. I am the founder of Stream. I had an opportunity to start this organization when I was 13 years old, really just as a way for myself and my peers to connect our education to career possibilities. Over the last 7 years, we've been able to partner with some amazing organizations and individuals from Lockheed Martin to Amazon to PPG to really help share the stories of women, of men, of students that are just doing some incredible things in science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and manufacturing. And today is no different. We get to highlight some more stories as we celebrate Women's History Month. And I can't wait to share all of these amazing women with you today. So before we get started, as shared in our opening message by Eileen, there are some amazing ways to stay connected to Stream all throughout the year, even after this event is over. So make sure that you stay connected to us by following Stream on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on our website. If you're interested in giving at any point today, just donating to our organization to help continue this mission, you can donate by texting WCC, that's all lowercase, to 325-603-3395. And this will be shared all throughout today's conversation. So don't hesitate to help donate, because this is all for the amazing students that we get to give back to throughout the year. With that being said, I am going to stop talking because we have some great women that are here to share their stories with us. And we're going to jump right into introductions. So Alexis, can we start with you? Can you explain who you are and just kind of a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Alexis Schutzel. I am a software engineer at American Express working in the fintech industry, which basically is just a fun little term for financial technologies. And my background, I actually come from a retail operations background. For 6 years, I worked in that, and through the inefficiencies that I found, sort of worked my way in through software engineering and then made the switch to fintech about 3 years ago. So yeah, that's about me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Kim, are you able to share who you are next?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Kim Lewis, and I'm actually originally from New York, but I reside in LA, and I am the SVP of West Coast and Midwest Sales for BET Networks. And I oversee advertising and integrated brand partnerships across both of the regions. And my goal, as I do every day, is try to implement winning sales and integrated marketing strategies to continue to drive advertising results. We have an unparalleled collection of multimedia assets, so I have a great time trying to identify and cracking codes of identifying partnerships. But I've been in the advertising business for now 30 years, and I really, really applaud everything you're doing. And I really wanted to join this discussion on women in culture and community, because I do feel that women are powerful. And as you think of Stream, we are the creators, we're the difference makers and guardians of culture. So I applaud everything you're doing, and thank you. And I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much for joining us. Charnay, are you able to go next?
Hi, yes. So my name is Charnay Amara, and I'm an anchor reporter for NBC6 South Florida. I co-anchor the weekend morning shows, and I report during the week. So we're at the Miami market. So our coverage area basically stretches, far as north as like Fort Lauderdale, maybe to the West Palm Beach area, down to the Keys. And we, of course, South Florida, Miami itself is an international city. So we definitely cover the Caribbean and those international politics and things and how it relates to South Florida. So that's my background. And I've been in the business a little over 6 years, jumped around in different media markets. So I've been here for a little over a month, but I'm definitely enjoying it. And, I wanted to be a part of this conversation because of what this stands for, just connecting with women and especially connecting with people who may not think about this career path and just opening it up for people. And this is, representing the arts, representing reading. So that's part of Stream. So that's why I'm here.
Super excited to dive in your story a little bit later. I was telling all of these amazing women, I'm like,
for me, representing the arts, representing reading, so that's part of Stream. So.
And lastly, Colette, are you able to share a little bit about your position and just kind of your background?
Hello, yes. Hello, Niamani and panel members and everyone logged in today. Thank you for having me. My name is Colette, and Colette Aline. I'm the Chief Education Officer for Inner City Arts, a nonprofit located downtown in Los Angeles. I am not originally from Los Angeles, but I've been here now for over 16 years. I'm fortunate to find this organization and truly honored to work here. We believe that the arts are transformational, and we recognize the power in the arts, not just from a creative standpoint, but and what it allows youth to do and thinking of themselves in their future and how they see themselves and view themselves in the world. And we do that through the various programs that we have to offer. So we serve students from grades K through 12 and then offer professional development, all focused on the arts, social emotional learning, art skills. And I recognize I'm here today because I recognize that my voice matters. And part of my purpose is to create space where others have agency to speak their truth and to speak their voice and to develop their path and what they want to do in life. So I'm honored to be in this space with such amazing women, knowing that there were some powerful women that came before me, and I hope to help set the path and the trail for more powerful women to come. So thank you for having me.
I love it. No, thank you all so much for joining. I don't know if I can say that enough. It's fun to have you all in one space and just sitting down talking about this topic, I think speaks words in itself. And I'm going to have to use my notepad and take lots of notes today because I can already tell there's going to be so many gems and information dropped during this. I'm going to start us off with our very first question, and I'm hoping, Alexis, you can answer it for me. But what role has women's history played in your journey from education to career? So your career working at American Express, what role have women played in that?
Gosh, I mean, women have been the cornerstone of my career probably every step of the way, starting with my mother, right? I think a lot of us women, especially with strong head careers, have come from strong women ourselves. And my mom is definitely like my rock when it comes to that. And I literally got to watch her go from not having a high school diploma to becoming an attorney to now an equity partner at her own firm. So that for me has been something that really has inspired me on a micro level. As far as a macro level goes, it's really reading and getting to know women that have come before me and talking about in technology, 60 or I shouldn't really, but yeah, about 60 years ago now, women made up most of technology. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And especially when it comes to the moon landing and different programs at NASA and different types of computer programming as it started, were all women, again, for the most part. And so the fact that things have sort of come away from that and now we're like, hey, let's wake up and do these again, like that for me is so inspiring to be like, okay, we want to get back there. And it doesn't need to be all women again. It can be a diverse group of everybody, but I want women to feel like they can be included in that. And so reading stories of Grace Hopper and a few other of my favorite programmers from where I come from have really allowed me to feel like I can do that too and spearhead those programs for women as well.
I love it. One, your response on two levels. I always tell people my mom is like my superhero too. I'm privileged to be able to work alongside of her every day in this organization, but it's something just about having a role model that is one inside of your house, just making some amazing strides to help pave the path and set footprints for you. And I know not every little girl has that. Not everyone can go and look towards their mom, but I think having individuals like you that are in this space that can be like industry moms or educator moms that we can look towards helps as well. And then also books and opportunities like Grace Hopper. A lot of people just don't know about it. It's not taught in the classroom as a way to look towards is, oh, here's a history assignment, or here's an English assignment for us today. So I'm so excited that you pointed out some of those jewels. Miss Kim, are you able to tackle that question next? What role has women's history kind of played in your education and career journey?
Absolutely. When I think about women of color and I think about my mother, really who have pioneered in their own respective industries. I mean, these are incredible women who have achieved an undeniable level of greatness that has truly revolutionized and redefined pathways that really have allowed for like women like myself to see the space that I could thrive as well. And when I think about education, I mean, I graduated from University of California at Berkeley, and that in itself was a major accomplishment. A lot of folks were trying to say that couldn't do it. A lot of schools, I went to a school and they were saying, no, you shouldn't apply there. You should apply to a state school. And these are things sometimes they try to deter you and not encourage you. I didn't listen because I knew it was possible. And I saw other women out there that certainly had broke barriers, and there was no excuse because, again, when we think about these prestigious universities, it's not just only one side of the fence that's able to go. We all can go. You just got to work hard. So I broke that barrier. And after I had graduated, I entered into the workforce. And again, it was really incredible to know that there had been courageous women before me, and they had broken many barriers when you think about the business I'm in with advertising. And for me, my three things that I always say and I stand by is, how am I showing up? How am I speaking up, and how am I stepping up? And I look at in history and I look at my mother and I say, gosh, she would always show up, always had herself together. And she was certainly a walking billboard of success. So she walks into the room, it was defined. And so knowing that, I'm like, okay, I know I need to show up in the right way and then speak up. Well, you need to speak up and say something that matters. How are you adding value? How are you actually bringing a seat at that table, but truly impacting and influencing, and then stepping up? Do you always have to be told to do something? No, you need to take the initiative. So when I talk about like the pioneers and when I talk about folks that are breaking barriers, you stepped up to do that. So as we've seen in history, many, many women are out there doing all those things. So for me, I always think about going over and above every call of duty and taking the initiative to always strive for excellence.
That's so good. And I wrote it down: showing up, speaking up, stepping up. I'm going to quote that one. I'll give you credit for it, but
okay. That's my little motto. I take
it's so good because I think those are principles that we often, not intentionally, but sometimes unintentionally forget to do based off of the spaces that we're in or what someone may have said we're unable or not able to do. Props to you on graduating from Berkeley, because that is definitely not everyone can say that they've done that. So I'm just thankful that you were able to do it and now have created representation for all the little girls, especially girls of color, that are going to come behind you. So
absolutely.
Paulette, would you like to help tackle that question next? What role has women's history played in your journey? I think you're on mute.
Oh my goodness, I am on mute. That's one of the banned phrases for 2022. You're on mute. We should all know better by now. I think one thing that I'd really try to focus on is that my education never stops. It's a continuous journey, maybe not in the technical sense, but it continues because we're learning from each other. With opportunities like this, we come together with people in similar career paths or like-minded people that help us to continue to grow. Women have taught me over time that, especially over the past 2 years, looking at artists in this space where they had to reimagine themselves and transform their careers. I've seen women over the past 2 years take what they thought was their career path and make it something totally different and shifting to working online. And I'll just myself in the space that I'm in, having the opportunity, being forced by nature to transform programs to a space with an amazing team of people where we're doing it online and staying true to our mission. That's a task. And I look at people like Martha Graham and Catherine Dunham and Lena Horne, our locals, Debbie Allen, Lula Washington, and Pat Taylor. And I see what they have had to do to fight through some of the challenges in the space of the arts and creativity and education. And I use that as as my driving force. And I would say my faith has kept me going, knowing that no matter what, it is all going to work out. And I think that is a characteristic of most women, is that, and I don't know if it's good or bad, we believe that nothing can stop us. And no matter what, we are going to continue to press forward. I think we're a little bit more knowledgeable now about self-care and well-being and mental health. And I also know that added to that is the resilience that we've learned over the years, that we have to keep going, because it's not just about us. For me, my purpose in life is much bigger than where I am right now. I'm looking to create opportunities for those that follow behind me. So there's no room. Quitting is not an option. No is not an option. And I know that that stems from, challenges as a teenager, being a young mom and having a daughter that I had to model. I had to model what it meant to not let obstacles get in your way. And I think that for women, that's a space that we hold, and it's in us. And I just stay focused on that. It's in us. And I like to surround myself with people who have the same thought.
Well, that's why I'm here today, trying to surround myself with people that have the same thought. You said education never stops, which I think is so key, especially when we are matriculating through these grades as the next generation. It's like, all right, we came from elementary school, now we're in middle school, now we're in high school. The tradition is for us to go to university, but education is far beyond the classroom. Like, I feel like I'm learning every day. As you can see, I have my notepad out because there's so many gems that are dropped just when you're not expecting them to be dropped. And so I think just a constant reminder, okay, education, I'm learning something new today. I'm going to go in and learning something new. No is not an option for me. If I get told no, I'm talking to the wrong person or not the right time. So move on. Who's the next person that I need to talk to? And so that's been a constant reminder for me. So thank you for just reiterating that. I had to mark it down for myself. And Charnay, how has women's history kind of played a role in your journey as well?
Well, I mean, I stand on the shoulder of giants, is the saying or expression that we always hear. But it's true, especially in my position in this field, in journalism. You mentioned, or I can think of like Ida B. Wells, Carol Simpson, Michelle Clark, and these are journalists. If you don't know who I'm referring to, if you're a woman who wants to get in this industry, these are people you want to research. These are people you want to get to know and think about their history, because these are women who laid the blueprint, right? Even at my own station, Constance Jones, she's our main morning anchor. Trina Robinson, she was the first African-American meteorologist in South Florida, period, right? And she's still here at my station. So, these are the people and the pathways and that history that really laid the groundwork. And just recognizing I am not self-made. I seeked out these women. I looked at their histories, or people who are maybe still in the business. I'll reach out to them, and I seeked out that mentorship. So that history and understanding that, and delving into that is really what laid the groundwork for me to be where I am today, and recognizing that and appreciating that and taking advantage of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That is so good. And I think you all alluded to it in your own way, that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. We are walking in the footprints of so many great women that have come before us. And sometimes it's not just women, there's men that have played instrumental roles in our lives as well. But for the purpose of today, we're talking about Women's History Month. So we'll kind of stay true to that. I would love to know, though, what are some of those challenges that you have faced along the way, and what motivated you, or how did you get over them? And Alexis, we'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Lots of challenges. I think one that really comes to mind, especially in my industry of software engineering, is the challenge of being heard and being taken seriously. It happens, unfortunately, way too much, even today in 2022, where you wouldn't think that that's a problem. Sometimes I work with teams, and I walk into a room, or now a Zoom call, and I get the question of, oh, when is the senior on the project getting here? And they assume that I'm in one of the more female roles of management or product or something like that, which are all great and important roles, but not what I do. And so when I then kind of get to say like, well, no, that's me. I'm the senior engineer on this project. It's very difficult to go through that a lot and throughout time and time again when I'm trying to present a project or I'm trying to work with teams. And so I think one of the ways that I work towards overcoming that in my industry is really focusing on standing strong and coming in there with that confidence. And it's not always easy. And sometimes, you definitely come home feeling like, oh gosh, today was a tough day. But knowing that you deserve to be there and you have done the work to be there, and knowing that no matter what anyone else says, that you have earned that spot and you deserve your role is crucial. And allowing people to make space for you. You mentioned it just a minute ago when you said some men have to help us too sometimes in creating that space. And I will never forget a time I was in a meeting and I kept getting like over talked all the time. And it was a man that stopped and said, hey, I heard Alexis trying to talk. Can you, like, what were you trying to say? And that for me, like just having that one person do that, I am now that person in meetings. Like I will stop a meeting and say, oh, hey, so-and-so was trying to talk, Karin was trying to say something. What is it you were trying to say? So because I know being heard is so hard for me, I now try to help others with that challenge, even if I feel like I'm not getting the same respect. And I think that for me, that's made a huge difference.
I told you guys I'm going to have quotes for everyone by the time we're done. I will give you credit, I promise. But I think the biggest thing I took out of what you just said, Alexis, was allow people to make space for you. When I think about that, it's so crazy because it is easy to kind of take a step back when you're trying to say something and become the quiet person in the room and just accept it. Although we have a little grudge when we're accepting it, but it's easy to take that back seat. So I love that you shared that because sometimes it's not that it just happens in the workplace. Sometimes this starts in our classrooms that we're in. I know for me, I was in an engineering class and I was one of 5 girls in this entire engineering program throughout 4 years. So it was already crazy from the jump, but to think, okay, we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to figure out a way to make our voices heard. So I absolutely love that you shared that journey. Charnay, would you like to kind of give your take on that? Are there any challenges or hurdles that you faced along the way? And what was your reaction to them? Like, how did you get over them?
I think in this business, just in general, there's the part of journalism, but then I work in broadcast news, so image is a big factor as well. And so, as a woman of color, Black woman, your hair is a big thing, and it has been a big conversation, I would say, in this industry. You see my hair is natural. I have curly hair. I do wear my hair natural on air. When I started out in this business, I was told or had the idea that I had to have my hair a certain way, not the way it grows out of my head. And I think that was a challenge for me to overcome, just in that right there, right? Just being comfortable enough to even wear my hair natural, which just seems very minuscule or very minor. But I mean, for some reason, this is a battle, within a lot of women of color, particularly Black women. So when you look at that and you look at the Crown Act, right, in California, see that's one step towards the change and combating that. And then there was women who I can look to, like Sage Steele, ESPN. She wears her hair natural on air. Leah Uko, she is a journalist who's at NBC in Philadelphia. She has dreadlocks on air. These are people, even men, So when you start to see that and see the changes and kind of understanding that, your audience likes to engage it with people who are real, who are authentic, who and when you are being your authentic self, you feel comfortable more on air, and you're able to be that person and represent something to some little girl who might look just like you. So that really makes a difference. So for me, that was a big thing. And I had a male news director who championed and who allowed me to, go natural on air, who was backing me and supportive of me. And so that makes a difference. And that makes a difference for the next person who, if I leave that position, the next person that comes in that position who may have that same issue. So that's one thing. Another thing I feel like is a big conversation in this industry, especially for journalists of color, whether no matter what, is being a Black journalist versus a journalist who happens to be Black. You don't want to just be the Black journalist covering the Black stories or the Hispanic journalist who covers the Hispanic stories. You want to make sure that you're reflective of the community and you're giving communities a voice, all communities voices that maybe are underrepresented, but also making sure that you are being fair and balanced. And I think this is something that's coming up in the SCOTUS Supreme Court hearings, for example. Can you be fair and balanced? And why is my race a question, as if I can't, report on something that has to do with the Black community or the Hispanic community or whatever, the Asian American community? Can I be fair and balanced in reporting this? And proving to your audience that, yes, I can be fair and balanced in reporting. Is just because I represent this community or I'm maybe a part of it doesn't mean that I have some sort of bias. So I think that is one thing that has been a challenge for some reason. For some, there are audiences that question whether or not you can be fair and balanced. And that's what journalism is. And, you just have to be confident in your reporting and make sure that you do seek out both sides of an issue and you present the facts and you report the story and you allow the audience to dissect it. So I think that's just a conversation and things that, that we're kind of battling in this industry as news reporters. And yeah, I mean, those are two big things that I've seen and I've dealt with. So
they're both huge topics, and I love that you brought them up. I think image for women, it has been a big topic, and no matter what industry you're in, I know you're on screen, so we actually physically get to turn on the television and see you on our screens, which is absolutely amazing. So to be able to represent that, saying, hey, I'm rocking my natural hair today, and having a little girl that may be just watching alongside her mom one day is inspiring in itself. Although that she may not be understanding all the words that are coming out of your mouth, it's something to be able to turn on the television and it's like, hey, this is someone that represents me. And then I think another big thing that everyone's brought up a little bit is just allowing those spaces that we're in, I don't say taking advantage, but being appreciative of those people that are already in the space, that are already in these positions, and allowing them to help guide us until we're able to do that for others. So thank you for sharing that. We did have a question that came in our Q&A from one of our audience members, and I'm going to ask this to Colette and Kim because she specifically said both of your names in the question. It's a little bit of a twist on kind of the question that we just spoke with Charnay and Alexis about. It says, were there any other specific challenges or barriers that almost got you to the point of deterring from your career goals? Kim's education barrier was broken and faith kept Colette going. Was there anything where it was almost not enough and you decided that was not going to happen? So was there any challenge that you were like, okay, this may be the end. I may have to change my career. It's just becoming too much for me. And what was your determining factor to say, nope, I don't care what anyone's saying. I'm going for this. I'm going to make it happen.
Do you want me to go?
Go ahead. I was going to say, who wants to go first?
Well, here's what's funny about, if I think about this question, I'm looking at it as kind of like a parallel path because, when I look at the industry, so I'll start with that. So as you think about, you see that we've had some progress just in this whole advertising branding space, but women of color still continue to be underrepresented. And, as we're looking at this space, I have not met any woman that looks like me on the decision-making C-suite level. And some companies have made great gains in really hiring more Black and brown people in these entry-level positions, but they're still largely absent from senior level roles. And definitely, as we all have been saying, work needs to still be done, but we have to hire more women decision makers. And as the catchphrase, diversity inclusion, but it's more than just getting in the door. What are we going to do after that, right? So for us as Black women, we face, I should say this, women face a glass ceiling. Black women face a concrete ceiling, which that means we have to work even tougher and harder with these obstacles. And in some cases, it's incredibly difficult to break through. So let me pause. So sometimes in work environments, you may have individuals that don't want to see you shine. Sometimes there are people that are forces that are working against you. And your value is your value. You know it and you see it, you're successful. But then you have others that they're in your space. And that's just the crabs in the barrel and all the things that happen in the world of the political environment of any corporate organization. But when you think about that, that can be a deterrent to people, because it takes the will and the skill and the strength to withstand anything that comes your way, even if there are things that are being put in front of you that are completely false, but for whatever reason, where they sit in the table, maybe they're heard a little louder than you. So fast forward, I was not going to let any of that deter my progress and my trajectory. What I appreciate about my company is that even though you might have folks that you're facing, I do have leaders and I do have people who have supported my journey throughout my career. And they could see through some of those things that have happened. Now, if I didn't have my strong village and my faith and my belief in myself, I would have easily have just went out the door, because I won't even bore you with the examples. It's a lot to bring up. But I will tell you, anybody would probably leave. But because I am focused on what I do, I love the African-American community. I love this brand. I love our clients, and I'm completely motivated in this space. And I know I have more work to do. And I've been so blessed, incredibly blessed, to have gotten to the point where I'm at, just in terms of the trajectory. Because when I first started, just to kind of give you a little background, I was an account executive. So I opened up the office for a magazine division there. But every year I continued to grow, because we had a great leader that just saw the greatness in me, and I continued to become additional titles, director, then a VP, and then another VP. And then I became a senior VP on one region. Then I became the senior VP over both. So if I stopped, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think I have to just thank myself, because sometimes we don't do that enough. And I have to thank myself that I was able to look the other way, and those individuals that were there are no longer there. So it's not even an issue for me. But again, this was much earlier in my career. Half the people that are with us now don't even know who these people are. So a lot of this could have derailed my whole process of where I'm at today. So, and again, they think it's apples and rainbows and butterflies and unicorns right now, because it is. It's an incredible place where we are today. So I could keep going on and on, but I'll stop here.
That was so good. I think one, I got out of that, celebrate the progress. I feel like there's forever going to be ways we can advance. And some of these advancements, honestly, are things that we may never see in our lifespan. This may be something that is shown in our children's life, or maybe grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren. But the strides that we're making today is kind of what's going to continue that progress going. So that was one of the things. And then I think Alexis also spoke on this a little bit, just in terms of women in leadership. The phrase that I wrote down is just beginning to normalize women in leadership positions. Mm-hmm. How do we as society kind of help shape that and create that narrative, like, hey, this is what happens. So just like we have become normalized, or when we turn on television screens and see people in movies that walk up in the boardroom and sit at the head of the table, and it's traditionally men. How do we normalize it for the next generation, where on screen or outside of screens or in the offices and classrooms that they walk into, the person that sits at the head of the table is a woman, someone that they can look into? How do we kind of reshape our minds to think that way? So that was brilliant. I had to say that, because I'm taking so many notes, but it was just another great thing I had to write down. Colette, did you have some time to think?
I mean, my mind is running. I think that, every day we show up, there's the possibility of quitting. There's the possibility of giving up. And I can't stress enough the challenges that we faced, my organization has faced, many organizations have faced over the past 2 years. I heard Alexis say, you know, I deserve to be here. And I feel like that's one of the things as well. I deserve to be here. And in a leadership role, you know, there's all the talk right now about positional power. And I think reconciling that on a daily basis of what it means to be in a position of power and to also carry what we carry as Black women. We show up in the room every day as who we are, and we have no way of changing this. So we bring in a certain dynamic, we bring in a certain level of passion, and that often can be misinterpreted. And in some instances, it can be power, and in some instances, it's interpreted as being aggressive. And I think balancing that out on a daily basis and staying mindful and being true to why you are in the room and the fact that you worked for what you worked for and you worked to get to where you are is something that we have to remind ourselves of every day. Because I mean, we there's diversity and inclusion. We all know that that is a document that's in writing. What does it mean to actually operationalize that daily? And Kim mentioned, like, position after position. I've been in spaces where you have a position and a title, but your voice is not heard. And figuring out when to push and figuring out when to sit back and listen, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. And the fact that we get to do that every day, we get to do that every day in the different spaces, in the different boardrooms, in the different meetings, and even with our teams, we get to decide every day how we want to show up and recommit to being our authentic selves. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And I will also say the mental, like, there's a lot that we don't talk about from a mental health aspect, where I think we all go home every day and go, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting up with the foolishness? Why do I? Why do I? So, you know, as far as looking at things that could have made me quit, it's doubt. It's the questions that surface in our minds every day that we don't talk about because we're in positions where people look to us for guidance and for strength. But I think if we all pause for a minute and acknowledge the human in us and who we are first before our titles, we are people first, and human nature is to question. Um, so, what systems do you have in place? What people do you have around you that you can go to, that you can trust on a daily basis, that help get you grounded and allow you to really sit in where you are, so you can remind yourself that you deserve to be where you are, that you worked for it. Nothing was given to you. Nothing was given to anyone in this room. So reminding myself daily of the work that I've put in to get here, and that it's going to continue to take more work. Like, I'm going to have to continue to work. I can't just stay here, because as a leader, my responsibility is to grow. My responsibility is to model. The balance between how much weight I want to put on myself to grow, for myself and for others, and when I just want to lean in and be present and be authentic. Um, that's something I think about daily. And I truly believe that is what helps me continue to go through the daily fight, the daily work that it takes to stay in the seat, in the title, in the position, is being who I am and leaning into that more and more every day.
That was so, I couldn't get to my mic button fast enough. That was so good. One of the key things you said is human nature is to question. And I think just the realization of that, I question myself every moment of the day. Is this the right thing to do? What will someone think about this? If I post this, will someone unfollow me because I said this in this way? And so I didn't understand, I guess, how much it affected really until this time of COVID, where we just had time to sit with all of these things and really ask ourselves those personal questions. Jana is actually the one who asked that message in the chat box, and she did tell me she wanted to hear from Alexis and Shernay as well. So is there anything you guys wanted to add from your perspective on that question?
Yeah. Sorry, Shanae, are you?
Oh no, you can go. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, kind of similar to, like, just gonna sort of echo what these ladies have said because they put it so eloquently. I feel like I sit there, I look at the fact that I am one of 3 women on a 65-person team. And of those 3 women, I am the only woman of color. And as a Latina, that means there are no Black women, no, Native American women, nobody else, no Asian women, nobody else on our team. And so some days I do feel isolated, I think is a good way to put it. And sometimes that isolation, and as Kim just put it, I'm sorry, Colette just put it, the doubt that comes with that a little bit. It definitely, I do come home some days feeling like, oh man, what was I thinking? Like, am I enough? And I feel like that happens more often than I'd like to admit, but every day we get a little bit stronger. We pull from our influences around us and those that do support us every single day, and that reason that we're here. And when I have a senior vice president who is a woman, and she's Jewish, and she is all about getting, like, she has come in and just changed our whole organization as far as that goes. And I think that having that really sparked it back. So again, kind of pulling from what these ladies said, is like pulling from our inspiration and pulling from those people that are going to lift us up and help us get there together, especially from a woman who is in that positional space to do that. And I just hope that I can kind of, like, my goal now is, like, I want to get where she's at so that I can come in and shake up an organization. And that's
You're on your way. You're on your way. Definitely look forward to it. Shernay, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, just highlighting my industry particularly, like as far as things that make you want to quit or make you think like, oh my gosh, I'm not enough or something. I love my field. I love this industry. And right now, being in Miami, I'm going to say I'm a little bit spoiled because my newsroom is super diverse. I mean, oh my goodness. I'm Caribbean. I have a Jamaican and Dominican background. Everybody, I have a female news director. I mean, my general manager is Cuban. Like, I mean, I'm spoiled right now, but this is not the norm for every single city, unfortunately. So one, I want to say I notice a lot of people burn out in this industry or quit because it is tough, especially when you're starting off early on. If you're in a small market, some call it. Some people are very critical and call it, an industry of privilege when you start off, and I can understand why. And that's because a lot of times, you're entering. You're graduating, you're in debt, you're entering, or you're working while you're in college as an intern unpaid, right? And some people just can't afford to do that. And I understand that. And a lot of times the people who can't afford to do that come from lower socioeconomic standards. Or backgrounds. So then that kind of eliminates some other folks. And that shouldn't be the case. That's not fair. And that takes away people with great experience from our industry. And thank goodness for organizations like NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists, NAHJ, the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, AAHJ, Asian American Journalism Association, and so on, because these are organizations that exist for that very reason, to make sure that there is representation in the industry. And they're just, we're still fighting that battle right now because of these circumstances. But I look back at places like, I worked in Milwaukee, Wisconsin before I got here. Milwaukee is about 40% Black, 20, closer to 20% Hispanic. So it's a very, there's a lot of people of color in the city of Milwaukee, but the people on television don't necessarily reflect that. And a lot of the things that are covered don't necessarily reflect that. And that's really unfortunate. But at the end of the day, you get in there, you fight, and you fight for the stories. And that's why you're important in that newsroom. So that kind of, I kind of really understood that in that market, particularly. I came in there, they didn't even have Hispanic Heritage Month. And I was just like shocked by that. So me and my coworker, I'm only a quarter Dominican. So I don't even, me and my coworker, we started a Hispanic Heritage platform that not only, happened in my market, in my station, it went across all Hearst stations. It became an initiative across all Hearst stations. That includes Orlando, which is a bigger Hispanic population. So that's, influential. When the Stop Asian Hate stuff, when that started, there was almost no coverage of that. But there's a small Asian population, a small Asian community in Milwaukee, but just because it's small doesn't mean that they don't have a voice. So you want to, make sure you're tapping into those communities, and it's just, a reminder of why you are in these spaces. Take up space, but for a reason. So don't feel discouraged just because you're one in the room, because that one person that you are in the room, you're going to make a pathway for, 2, 5 more people to be in that same space. So just reminding yourself of that, and just, I don't know, take up space and do it for a reason. So, yeah.
I absolutely love it. I wrote that down. Take up space for a reason. And being okay with taking up the space that you're taking up. Like, just making ourselves okay with that is outside of the norm. It's like, I don't want to bother anyone. I don't want to feel like I'm disrupting spaces. But no, you're there to disrupt the space. Shake it up, because there's obviously a reason that you're there. And then another thing that I wrote down that you said is really just a phrase, 2 words: we started. You didn't see it, so you stepped out and started it. And which I think most of the times we don't see it, so we take a step back, and it's like, okay, well, if I don't see it, I can never do it, or it's never going to happen. But you didn't see it, so you started something, which now makes it next person that walks in, hey, it's already here for them. So I definitely applaud you for that. I think something else that you spoke of when you were talking, that you were spoiled a little bit, I think it kind of goes back to what Kim was saying earlier when we're celebrating the progress. You're coming from a space that is a little bit more diverse than the norm. So this is something in real time that we get to see. There are spaces that are doing it, and that are doing it well, and showing just diversity, especially on screen, which isn't normal to everyone. So I applaud your industry. I applaud the space that you're in, and really the network that you're working for, to be able to show some of these other sides.
And I wanted to just say quickly, remember, I did mention that Trina Robinson, who's our she's an anchor at my station. She was the first African-American meteorologist in South Florida. The simple fact that she's still employed at my station, still working, shows you that she is the reason that this progress is made. Right. She is the one who, laid the groundwork, because if it wasn't for her making that leap and, facing those battles that she faced, I wouldn't be here. So.
Right. That's so good. There's another question that came in Q&A. I'm going to ask it in just 1 second. But as you were all speaking, it made me think of a question that I have to shamelessly ask for myself. How are you helping to shape women's history? Individually, as a person, what is Kim doing to shape women's history? What is Colette doing? What is Alexis doing? What is Charnay doing to shape women's history as we'll know it 10, 15 years from now? Let's start with Alexis.
Oh man, that's such a good question. I think, again, I'm going to kind of answer it from like a micro level, macro level. From a micro level, I'm trying to do what I can to really pull in talent from various different sources as far as our industry. I work with organizations like Black Girls Code, Girls in Tech, and Grace Hopper. I get to go to that every year, which I've been so fortunate to do. And I get to help interview women of color for these positions, and tell them a little bit more about what we're doing and how American Express is making changes, and how the engineering world, specifically software engineering, is making changes and making space for them. So for me, that's where I'm starting. And kind of like I said earlier, I want to rise up to those positions where I have a voice and a bigger decision factor for those types of programs that we get involved in. From a larger scale, I'm kind of similarly along with that, working with organizations where I can, to show that we can take up space, and we can, like I said earlier, we deserve to be in these roles just as much as anyone else. And that's hopefully what I leave as my impact from the technology world.
I love it and can see it already. So I look forward to the day it's just written in history, and I can say, I knew Alexis win. Ms. Kim, would you like to go next?
Sure. Well, I feel like I'm making history every day. As I said, there isn't anyone that specifically looks like me in this role, and I know I feel that it's an honor, and I feel I have a responsibility to continue to bring up additional generations, where starting from high school to the HBCUs, we have several outreaches that we're taking part of as we're embarking upon kind of like that next coming into this industry, because there's definitely barriers just in terms of the lack of understanding as to what this is. Because when you tell somebody, oh, I'm in sales, well, it doesn't really resonate. And if you say you're advertising, you're like, oh, commercial. So it's about how do you kind of unpack what these roles are, and at least allowing individuals to really understand what's in front of them. Because if you don't know, because you haven't been told and the schools don't teach you, you have to go out and seek and find. So for me, that's just something from an education standpoint, with reaching back to the youth, but just my team and being in this industry to make a, how should I say this? It's United Colors of Benetton, if you want to say. I mean, I think if you look at our team, we don't look like your average team. I'm also West Indian. I'm from Grenada, and I come from New York, but again, we have a melting pot of individuals that are part of the team. And the great news for us is that we're an open organization to where it's not one thing or the other, but we're looking at everyone. And I think when you think about the industry itself, you're not going to see anyone at the table. Anyone that you're going to at least call on, anyone that you're going to have be on the creative side, on the senior higher level, they're not going to look like me. So what I'm trying to do is have my team really instilled with all the knowledge, all the skills, and allowing them to have the strength to continue to be something bigger here or beyond. Because the one thing that I don't do is put the barriers on my team. I want them to thrive. I want them to grow. I could sit here and spend probably another hour to share with you where some of my Black and Brown team members are today. I am so proud. I have writers, I have lawyers, I have entrepreneurs. I mean, I have so many folks that have come through our doors, and I've done nothing but encourage, support. And as we talk about making history, that's history in itself. Just to continue, to make everyone win with you. So you're providing a path, but then you're seeing them through that path. And you're also giving opportunities, because as what I've seen in my career, and again, I'm so fortunate that I do work for a Black company, and no one, if you go to any other media companies, and I won't name them all, but you won't see a team that looks like this. And I know I keep saying that, but it's so true. And it's a head scratcher sometimes, because I have a dynamic team. Our team is on fire. And I tell you, we have been together for double digits, unheard of in any organization. So definitely we're doing something right as we talk about our culture, because again, that's what really continue to instill that greatness and that striving for excellence, is having a culture of continuous learning, but also understanding that it takes work to win, but you have the support and the guidance to get there. And you don't have that fear. If I make a mistake, is this going to be a bad thing? No, we're going to learn from that, and we're going to build from that. So long-winded answer. I have a lot here as far as history in the making, and I'm trying to make winners. I'm trying to make continued successful teams. I'm breaking barriers, looking at ways that we can do things differently, different types of partnerships. I mean, we're really trying to crack all kinds of codes. And I just love that I have the opportunity to really do that and thrive. So thank you.
That was good. And I think you nailed it at the beginning when you said I'm history every day. Because I think it's something that we take for granted. You're waking up and being history. Just the fact that all of you in the positions that you are in, that's history in itself. I always have to remind myself, I always and will be the only Niamani Knight that I know. So I have to be the best version of myself every day for my generation, for the generations that will follow me. And so I another quote I wrote down that I'll give you credit for. And then I think another key thing that you said is allow everyone to win with you. Like, just because you got to that point does not mean you leave everyone else where they are. No, the whole goal in making history, and we're talking about history, is allowing people to walk in those footprints that we've set. So I love that as you're succeeding and elevating, that you're taking this whole group with you. And I think that speaks a testament to why you are able to work with each other for such a long period of time, because people stay when they feel appreciated. People stay when they feel like they matter. So
Absolutely.
Colette, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. So I will say I'm aligning myself in and building authentic relationships with organizations that I know are focused on doing this work. We have Arts for LA that does advocacy for the arts in Los Angeles. There's CASA, the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators, the Black Student Excellence Movement that is happening through LAUSD. And then personally creating opportunities at my organization for parents and students to become educated on what is possible. Like, we are all in the entertainment industry. We're all in something that has to do with arts and creativity, and creating moments like I have this weekend, an event that's coming up that is about parent education. Stream will be represented at that event. And it's making sure that parents know what is possible in creative industries so they are able to support their youth in pursuing careers like this, so we can see more of ourselves in this work. It's really just, it's alignment, it's relationship, it is making sure that you're staying focused. And I would say even more this year, it's owning my Blackness, I am a Black woman in this world that has worked hard to get where I am. I'm working on my doctorate right now in a space where I don't see anyone else like me. And me pushing through this program is so I can have the credentials that people will look at and go, oh, you've done a thing. It's not that I want to spend years of doing research, even though I'm very, very interested in it, but I know that's what makes a difference. That's what people want to see, the credentials. And I think that's the challenge is, as Black women, we constantly have to prove ourselves. I'm doing this work for me. I'm doing this work so I can show, so I can model for someone else what is possible, while creating opportunities for other people to also find themselves in this work, connect to their purpose, because nobody likes to show up at work and not be happy and not appreciate and have joy in the work that they do. So if I can create environments where youth can explore those possibilities and create to a career that feeds their spirit versus just feeding their pocketbooks. I know that's an older term, right? Versus feeding their wallets, and they're feeding their spirit.
I don't think I've ever heard.
Have you heard of pocketbooks? Versus feeding their spirit. I think it's important for us to show up every day and love the work that we do, because then it's not work. It's our passion. It's our love coming to life every day. So that's what I'm doing. I'm committing every day to this work to make sure that other youth have the opportunity to pursue careers in the arts, if that's what they choose, arts and entertainment, with that being one of the most lucrative careers in Los Angeles. It does not make sense that we don't have more Black and brown people, not just in front of the screen, but that we have more Black and brown people at the table making decisions, reading the contracts, signing the checks, recruiting, and getting people in that look like them. So I know we see ourselves in front of the camera. I think it's also an opportunity in front of the camera, behind the camera, making the decisions, counting the bills, writing the grants, all of those things. And we need to be able to see ourselves in those spaces. So I'm committed to doing that work.
Committing yourself to purposeful work, yourself's personal work. So what is the purpose that works for me? And that doesn't mean it's going to be the same for everyone, but this is my purpose. This is how I'm staying true to it. So many gems. I can't digest all this in one sitting. Charnay, I think you are last on that question.
I mean, I kind of want to echo what she just said. I mean, I also want to see, obviously I'm on camera, but I want to see Black and brown people, it producing. I want to see Black and brown editors, news managers. Like, I want to see more of that in those spaces, taking up those spaces, because those are where the decisions are made too. So that's really important. But I mean, me, I am a product of immigration. I'm a Black woman. I have a very diverse background, and I want to see more of me in these spaces. So for me, I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Obviously, it's a service organization, so that's one aspect. They focus on service to all mankind, right? But highlighting and emphasizing on women of color, and making sure that we have those spaces and we continue the legacy that was created and built back in 1908. And I'm also a member of the National Association of Black Journalists and the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, but I founded a chapter in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We didn't even have an NAHJ chapter before me and 9 other people got together and formed this organization because we wanted to see more Hispanic journalists, because it's 20% Hispanic and there is like 2 on air. That's inappropriate. That's not okay. So you want to create these spaces and make sure that news managers and news directors know you're serious about this and why it's important and being reflective of the community. So that, and I mean, when it comes to mentorship, hey, I mean, my DMs are open. So just being open and reaching out to people as well. And when they reach out to you, respond, because a lot of people, you know, sometimes you get to a certain level and you just are, you know, unreachable. You don't want to be that person. You want to be able to give back just like someone else before you gave back to you. So that's something that's really important to me. You know, going back on my earlier point, I am not self-made. I am a product of mentorship, and I'm so grateful to my mentors who got me to the position that I am. And I want to make sure that I reach back out and do the same thing.
Well, thank you for giving permission. I will be one of those in your DMs. So I really appreciate it. One of the questions that was in the chat box was, being a successful woman, knowing you have to work harder than the average male, how do you balance work and your personal lives? You are all in amazing careers, but what does that balance look like? Alexis, let's start with you.
Oh, that's a tough one. Like,
Alexis has a 3-month-old too, so
yeah. Yeah. So as a new mom, I'm still figuring out what that looks like for me now that I've had a new shift, right? But I would say overall, I think support is a huge part of that. And secondly, setting boundaries. Especially, I feel like as women of color, myself, but I know I've had colleagues that feel similarly, is you sort of get into this box of you feel like you have to become a yes person to everything because you're trying to make up for something that is you're not seeing. And so for me, it was learning to set those boundaries and saying no to certain things and certain events that, like, as much as I wanted to be a part of that, it wasn't the right time, or I wasn't in the right mental space because I had 5 million other things going on and I needed to focus on those things. You know, at American Express, for example, we have an organization called OLA. It's the Hispanic, I can't remember every word, but it's basically our Hispanic Association at work. And they do events all the time, and they do a lot of events with students, and I want to say yes to all of those events. And I do go to quite a few of them, but I can't go to everything. And sometimes I need to say no just because I need a weekend off. And I think that that's incredibly important to remember, that, you know, just because you have to work harder doesn't mean you always have to be working. There's a difference. And, you know, so I think that for me, remembering that is at times very challenging when we want to do it all, but very important. Yeah.
Just because you have to work harder does not mean you always have to be working. That was so good. That was so good. I think that's very important because it's hard, especially when you notice someone's in the position that you're like, if only I had that when I was older. So you want to give back so much. But I appreciate you for being truthful about that. Like, sometimes you just have to say no. I have to say no to preserve my mental space. And the next time you ask, I can say yes. I think that is such a reality that we have to be okay with saying. So I'm learning the power of being okay with saying no to some things. Kim, would you like to answer that question next?
Sure. You know, we all have aspirations for this healthy work-life balance. I know if you asked me this 2 years ago, I mean, there certainly were certain barriers in the workplace that really failed to support a reasonable work-life balance. And, you know, with the pandemic, I think we've proven that working from home is effective, and it may have even solved that balance problem, at least for me anyway, personally. And not only have I been able to see my family, going in the kitchen, grabbing lunch, going to a sofa, going on a Zoom, and then coming back into the kitchen, making dinner, and then going back into a Zoom or working on a report. I think how efficient this has been for me is through the roof. I have been soaring through my business better than ever, stronger than ever. The resilience, the resourcefulness. I mean, it's been amazing. But if I could answer this like 2 years ago, I probably would have said that I integrated life into my work. And so it's this thing I always would say is this work-life balance. But the funny thing was that I always had my family at the hip. So if I had business trips, they came with me. My daughter came with me. Sales meeting, I would do play dates with clients. We would have functions, and I would bring my family, and I was always an open book when it came to my business as far as what's going on with my husband, so that he's well aware of what's happening and he's in full alignment. So you don't get those pressures of hey, you need to do XYZ from home. And I think that's really where the issue comes in when you talk about this balance, because we do have our own internal kind of issues we struggle with, but sometimes it's the guilt that you see your child's face, or you see your husband say something, or your spouse, and it sends you through a whole nother level of a spiral that you feel like, I can't get all this done. It's like I can't get it all done at the same time. So I think I'm blessed because I have such an amazing support team. I have an amazing village, because I'm so thankful. I thank my village every day that it has allowed me to really thrive in the way that I have. And I've brought them with me in my journey. And it's not oh, here's work and here's family. No, we're all together. And even my work people, they know my whole family, all my bosses to the presidents I mean, you name it. Everyone knows my family by the first name. So I think I'm in a very fortunate situation when it comes to this. But again, like everyone said, sometimes you come in and you're like, okay, I'm tired. I got to pause. You need a timeout, and you got to know when to say when. And I have been in this business for so long to know that, okay, I've reached my limit here, because I surprise myself sometimes. Even last night, I was up doing reports till 2 a.m, and then got up at 6, and then I was working on another report. And then I had another thing. I had to work on a spreadsheet, and then I'm on a Zoom call, like 2 others, right? Actually, no, 4 others before this. So again, but
thank
I
you
also
for making time to come with us.
Yes, and you know the other thing too, I also, my daughter, she's homesick, so I had my niece come and take her to the doctor. But before this, I made her soup, fresh soup, and I made a full on meal that she could also have, and I had her tea and everything, and I made smoothies. So I had like all that prepped into the fridge, so if she came down, she would have something. So again, I mean, I'm working from home and I'm loving it, because it's allowing me to be the mom that I always want to be. And I've been really thriving in the last 2 years. And even before then, she came with me everywhere. I mean, I'm on a red carpet, behind the scenes, on set. She was hanging out in movie studios and, in Miami, wherever I had to be for an event or a meeting, I had my baby with me. And my husband, he would always be in lockstep too. So we were a tag team approach to it. And then I have my extended village too that would come along. So that's, I mean, my world. I know it's very different from others, but I'm just very grateful for just how I've been able to incorporate this quote unquote, if you will.
I love it. A lot too. We look at women, and I'm like, women are just superheroes in themselves. Like, if there was a superpower, it should just be women. Because I'm like, I don't understand how people wear just so many hats, from being a mom to being a daughter to being a sister to being heads of businesses to being entrepreneurs to being wives. Like, it's just a lot. And so when I think of all of those extra pressures that all these other hats that we have to wear when you leave the workplace, it's like crazy. So I think you hit on a point that was so good. I never thought of COVID as just being a good time to connect with family again, but bumping into your family when you run in the kitchen for lunch is not that bad. So it's not that bad. So I love that you hit on that point.
Yes.
Colette, did you want to go?
Yes. So similar, I agree with a lot of what Kim shared. I also think balance is relative. Like we have this idea that balance means that we have to do 4 hours of work and 4 hours of couple time and 4 hours of this and 4 hours of that. And that's not what it is. I think for me, it's responding to where I am at the moment and prioritizing that in the moment. So a couple of years ago, staying up late at night because I felt like I had to, staying up late at night to get reports done, stressing over different things. And I'm like, no, I can't continue doing this. And the pandemic, honestly, I'm in the same boat, Kim. The pandemic opened my eyes to what I need. And right before it happened, I had just told my mother-in-law, I can't keep going like this. Something needs to give. I need a break. And then I found myself at my house with my family for 2 years. So it was great because I got to see my children grow, and I got to see my husband at work. Like we really, it's the dance. And I think COVID pandemic allowed us to develop a dance where we understood each other's flow a lot more. It also created a space for me to kind of interpret what that relative balance was. It means if I have the energy, I will stay up and do the report. It means that if I'm tired, I will close my eyes and go to sleep, or I will take a nap. And if I want to watch that TV show, I will watch that TV show. It's that have to, changing that have to mentality to I get to, and I'm going to prioritize what I get to do and when I get to do it and still meet my goals. And I also think balance it's ever changing. We have to respond to where we are in the moment. I know on my list right now is how do I get active again? What does that mean? First thing I have to do is commit to it. Yeah, I'm going to work out. I may not be in the gym 4 days a week, but if I start 1 day a week, I'll walk. That's a start. And that is balance for me. Saying yes to myself when I need to say it, not being able to say, no, I can't do this right now. I need you to take care of it yourself. That's balance for me. So it's listening to that inner voice. It's listening to that inner voice and being okay with it and saying yes to what you need at the moment. Alexis, as a new mom, we could have a sidebar conversation. My kids are 22 months apart, and the oldest is 16 years older than them. So there was a big gap in between where I felt really different. And now having two little ones, I got to be okay with saying, no, I can't do that. I love you. I'm sorry you haven't heard from me in months. Doesn't mean I don't think about you. I love you. I'm here for you. I think about you all the time. So it's just really being able to acknowledge where you are, what you need in that moment, and being okay with it and releasing the guilt. Kim, you said that. Releasing the guilt. There's no guilt. There's no guilt and shame. I'm doing what I need to do for me right now so I can be the best me for you when I'm back.
That was a whole like TED Talk moment for us. It was brilliant. Sherry, you said this too. You said it in the chat box, saying yes to myself. I love that. Yes. When you said that, Colette, I was thinking the same thing. Like just being okay. Okay. Yes. I'm going to prioritize myself today. It just, let me take some time personally for me. Whatever that is, I think is amazing. And then you also said giving yourself to whatever you're working on in that moment. Like, okay, this fully gets my attention right now. When I'm with my family, that fully gets my attention right now. Okay, I'm at work. These are the times that fully gets my attention. That was all brilliant. So thank you. And then I think you are last share. Do you want to?
Yeah. I want to say thank you for saying that. I don't have children yet. That's something me and my boyfriend and I have been talking about, marriage and kids. And when I think about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like when I think about adding a little baby into the work-life balance, that is a little scary. But, it's a good to hear from moms just about that. But on my end, I mean, I don't think every day I maybe do the work-life balance just how I want it to be. Some days are better than others, but going back to what Kim had said, your village, it is so vital. I 100% agree with that. The people around you matter, and the people that you surround yourself with really, really, really matter. I would say credit to my boyfriend. He gives me reminders like, hey, just put your phone down. If I'm off, I'm like watching something, I want to be, up to date and everything. And you want to make sure that you're aware of everything that's going on, right? Like the confirmation hearings right now, this is something that I'm paying close attention to, but at some point you do need to disconnect with certain things. So having the people around you to even give you those reminders, it's important. And me personally, I do go running. It's just a good way to get your, your endorphins and everything like that. And just, you feel good after that. So those are just, two things, just your village, make sure the people around you are good. They're strong. They're benefiting you, not, taken away or draining you even further. But yeah, just those are two big things, I think, for me, just like me running, working out, just somehow getting my endorphins moving in some way, and then just being surrounded by the right village. Yeah.
That was really good. And I think that is a great transition into my last question that I have for you. I always like to end on, I've been talking about it all throughout, but just the perspective of next gen. So when you think back to your 5-year-old self, you think back, Alexis, to your 3-month-old Colette, for your kids, and share for the kids to come in the future, what would you say to them as they're walking in the footprints that you have set for them? Let's start with Colette first. I saw you thinking about it. I was like, I'm going to start with her.
I would say don't be afraid to speak your truth. And you are worthy and you are enough. I don't think I was supported as a child. I was given space to make my own decisions with guidance, of course, but
Right.
to pursue my dreams. But I don't know if I explicitly heard, you are worthy, you are enough. And I think that's important right now in this age of social media pressure, where doubts are thrown at you in your DMs on your post. If you're not getting enough likes and all that stuff on social media, you question. So I think I would say to them, you are worthy, you are enough, and there is absolutely nothing that can stop you except yourself.
Nothing can stop you except for yourself. I love it. Alexis.
Yeah, that was so beautifully said, Colette. I think, kind of going along those same lines, like, you deserve everything that you put your energy into, right? So by anything that you feel like, it sounds kind of cheesy, like you can do anything you put your mind to, but it's true, right? And anything that you put that energy and that passion to, you deserve everything you get back from that. And I hope that continues with you through your whole life. And that's really what I want to say there.
I love it. Last, certainly but not least, Sharnay, what would your final words of advice be?
I would say never be afraid to ask for help. That is so, so important. I think people are so afraid, they don't want to say anything because they don't want to seem like they're, I don't know, like not paying attention, or they're dumb, or they're whatever. They don't belong in the space, but you ask for help. And that's how, that's how that mentorship really starts too. And I swear that is so vital in any field that you explore.
This has honestly been one of my favorite conversations listening to, because I always feel like you learn so much in each of the spaces. And I just, as we're closing and getting ready to close, there was a few points that stood out to me. I have a book full of notes, but I'm going to choose just a couple that stood out to me. Kim mentioned being able to show up, step out. So owning your position really through those 3 key things: show up, speaking up, and stepping up. Colette, you said education never stops. Education doesn't stop ever. So learning how to embrace every single moment as a teaching moment, even if it doesn't always work in your favor, but taking at that as an education tool. Alexis, you said allow people to make space for you. I think that was such a big one, because it is definitely easy to shy away. So just being comfortable in your own skin and just, hey, there's someone that wants to help me along the way. I think, Sherry, you just said, don't be afraid to ask for help. So allowing those people that are already in the position to make space is amazing. And then Cher, you lastly said take up space for a reason. So once we have the space, like Alexis said, how are we using it to benefit us, and how are we using it to share with those that will follow us? That was a whole book in itself, so get ready for my next presentation. I will give all of you credit for sure. But I just want to thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. I don't know if we could have had a better group of women come together as we celebrate Women's History Month and have this conversation for women, culture, and community. So thank you so much. For everyone that's joined us, thank you for joining us on this conversation as well. There are some polls, so don't be afraid, and definitely answer those before you all head off. There's so many ways to stay connected with Stream. We have so many of these presentations and conversations and experiences going on throughout the year. So another way to stay connected, which I'll just reiterate, is to follow us on all social media platforms from Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Stream Global Org, on our website at streamglobal.org. And if anything moved you and you're like, I would love to pour back into this organization and the work that they're doing just for the next generation, you can text to donate by texting WCC, that's all lowercase, to 325-603-3395. But that concludes our time here today. So thank you all so much. And if you have any more questions, write them in the chat box before we leave, and we'll be sure to try to get them to our speakers. Cher put it perfectly that her DMs are open. So we will make sure to get those questions to them and hopefully get them answered for you. Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take some time